Okay, gang, here we go. Let me get this turned into full screen mode. And what we got now is the useful information form for buyers and sellers. And so this is just a 4-page notice to the buyer, tenant, and to the seller. Useful information about real estate transactions. It's not a required form, but it's very good to have. We want you to have it sent to them, but it's not part of the contract. It's just part of the education process. So useful information about real estate transactions. It talks about what a realtor is. I think you know what a realtor is, but just very quickly, there are licensees all across the country, and every licensee is not a realtor, but every realtor is a licensee. So you can't be a realtor and not have a real estate license. Okay, so we're members of the National Association of Realtors, which comes down to the state and then the local level. The biggest thing that we provide that the public knows about is the fact that we have the MLSs. The MLSs are owned on a local level. So at NVAR, we are a shareholder of Bright MLS, along with the other associations in the area. And so we're a part owner of that. And through that, we as agents have access to it and feed the information into it. It's from that Bright MLS then leases that information out to groups like Zillow and to other organizations such as that, websites outside of the realtor community, so people can see the listings online. The services we provide just talks about how we show properties, we give them sources of financing and show them how to do that. We show properties. We prepare and submit offers. It just explains the services a realtor does, and that we also follow the fair housing laws as well. The legal requirements: Virginia law requires that in order to be enforceable, all contracts for real property must be in writing. So this is the piece that you just want to make sure your buyer understands more than the seller, probably. Well, the seller too, but usually it's the buyers that are having their agents call you if you have a listing and say, would they take X? And your property is listed at Y. And it's like, well, just ask the seller if he would consider this much on the property and this kind of thing. And they don't want to write the offer. So honestly, it's a lazy agent, or it's an agent who's capitulating to what his buyer wants instead of what the law requires. I don't have to respond to any verbal inquiry on that property as far as, this is what we would like to offer. What do you think? It has to be in writing. So just remember that it's not legally binding until it's in writing. And so you just want to make sure everyone gets their desires on paper. Financing just explains to the parties what that means. It's mortgage rates, it's financial institutions, that they need to talk with the lender to find out the financing. Again, I can be a source to help you get access to that, but I can't tell you, hey, today's rates are 6.25%, and this is what you can get. This is what you get. I can guide you to that, but the lender is the one that has to give you the final information on the financing. So again, we're realtors. We do property. The lender does the financing. Insurance, there's a few types of insurance that the parties are going to have. A few things on this. For the seller, they have to have an insurance policy in place when their home's on the market. If they've moved out and the property is vacant, they need to let the insurance company know, hey, I'm not in the property, because it changes the face of the policy, and they have to have a vacant property policy in place. For buyers, they need to have this in place before, if they're borrowing money, the lender's going to require it. And then they have to make sure that the insurance company they're using is approved by the lender, so that they can get insurance to cover their property in case of accidents. Okay. Every property is in a database, by the way, that is looked at by insurance providers to see if that property is a good risk or a bad risk. So be aware of that you want to get the insurance application in soon. The contract requires within 7 days of ratification. So don't wait till week 3 to get your insurance in place. They should have applied for that much earlier to make sure that property does qualify for it. Buyer and seller duties under FIRPTA. FIRPTA is the Foreign Investment in Real Property Tax Act. These are people who are foreign persons, and they are, according to the tax code, they're not, internationally born people who live in the States. That's too broad. It's really the ones that, from a tax perspective, they are considered a foreign person, and they can own property. But when they sell it, if they're a foreign person, according to the tax code, they're under the FIRPTA, 15% as a minimum of the sales price of the property must be taken out of the proceeds and held until their tax bill gets cleared out. Okay. So buyer and seller have duties on this. The settlement agent may require the seller and the buyer to execute certain IRS forms, and that could include the seller's and buyer's tax ID numbers. So they need to be aware, if the property is FIRPTA, that they're going to have to get into some tax information on that with the closing, not just the buying and selling, and that's it. You need to look at the master plans of the community. These are usually available on the county websites. A nice big area of trees in the back may not be a nice big area of trees in the back for long, according to the master plan. So they want to know what is coming down the pike around the property they are purchasing. If the property condition and environmental matters, this is a big paragraph talking about, in essence, home inspections. And the home inspection can be home inspection, chimney, roof, environmental. We always think about radon, but down here a little bit further, you can see other environmental issues: urea formaldehyde insulation, polybutylene pipes. The environmental piece of the polybutylene pipes is that they're prone to crack at the joints, and so that's something to be aware of. Asbestos could be around the furnace room. The little 12-inch tiles that you'll see in a maintenance area of an older house, those are usually asbestos tile. The synthetic stucco EIFS, underground storage tanks, defective drywall, or lead-based paint, those are the environmental issues that they have the opportunity to test for if they want. Okay. Home energy efficiency information. Buyers may wish to consider the energy efficiency of any new or existing home. So here's a couple of websites that they can go to see more information about the energy, how to get an energy audit. And the energy and water consumption patterns in the home can also add to understanding the efficiency levels of home systems, things such as that. Responsibility. This is pretty big. Each party to a real estate transaction should carefully read all the documents. This is really talking to the sellers and the buyers. Don't blindly sign stuff. Okay. They need to read through this information. When I'm talking with a lister on listing a property, I will send them the listing agreement early, or the contract early, and say, look, this is what you're going to have to go through when it comes time to sell your property. I like them to see that contract early on, if they'll read it, so that when we get into the negotiation and the contract writing period of time, that we're not having to stop and have every paragraph explained. We've already walked through that, but they have a responsibility to know what those are. They have a responsibility to understand before they sign. And again, on this one, we have another link to the sex offender website for the state of Virginia. So they need to be aware of that. Again, here's the types of real estate representation. It's on this form. It's also in the buyer broker agreement. And there's some listing documents that also explain types of real estate representation. If you recall, we have a listing agent and a listing company and a buying company. The selling, it kind of gets confusing. The selling agent is the buyer agent. They are selling the property with the listings. You got listing and you got buyer. If the buyer and the seller come under the same company, that would be KW United, then you have dual agency. Dual agency is the company is representing both the buyer and the seller. Dual representation means the same agent is representing both the buyer and the seller. If you have dual company, KW United has the listing and we have the buyer, but I've got two different agents, then I have designated agency. I've designated one agent for the buyer and I've designated another agent for the seller. You can read this information, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Okay. That's the end of the useful information about transaction form. It's pretty straightforward. The signing here is for them to designate that they have been issued this form and they've read it. That's all it is. They're not agreeing to anything. They're just recognizing that they actually that they actually read the document and it has been given to them. Okay. All right. That's the end of this this document. If you got any questions, feel free to give me a call or to write me notes into the comments. Okay. Thanks so much. Have a great day.